The heat hits me like a physical blow the second I open the clubhouse door. It's not just hot, it's a thick, wet, suffocating blanket of misery. I'm instantly sweating, and I was only walking from my air-conditioned truck. Inside this supposed cooling center, it's a furnace. My eyes scan the room, and the scene clenches something in my chest. Old Man Hemlock is slumped in a plastic chair, his face pale, his usually crisp shirt clinging to him with sweat. Little Lily, probably all of 6 years old, is listlessly fanning her grandmother, Mrs. DeWitt, whose breathing sounds ragged from across the room. And then I see her. Mrs. Rodriguez, her hand pressed to her chest, her breath coming in shallow, painful-sounding gasps. She's a sweetheart, always has a kind word, always brings cookies to the HOA meetings, even when they're devolving into arguments about lawn gnome placement. Seeing her like this, struggling to just breathe. Yeah, that flips a switch. What in the absolute hell? The words are out of my mouth before I can stop them, louder than I intend. A few weary faces turn towards me. It's like a sauna in here. Where's the AC? Did it break down? Mrs. Rodriguez looks up, her eyes pleading. Mark, dear, she manages, her voice thin. Brenda, she came by about an hour ago. She pauses, takes another shaky breath. Said something about unauthorized electrical use. Her eyes water. She unplugged it, Mark. The main unit. Said the filter was probably a fire hazard anyway. My brain just... short circuits? Unbelievable. That woman isn't just a stickler for rules. She's a menace. A walking, talking, perfectly coiffed hazard to public health. She did what? I repeat, feeling my own face flush. And it's not just from the ambient temperature that must be pushing 90 in here. No, this is pure, unadulterated rage starting to simmer. These people, my neighbors, people who rely on this place because their own homes are unbearable in this godforsaken heatwave, are suffering because of Brenda. Because of a filter? I mumble a quick, "Stay hydrated, folks, I'll be right back," though I have no earthly idea what I'm going to do. My first instinct is to find the circuit breaker, plug the damn thing back in, and dare her to touch it. But Brenda's the kind of person who probably padlocks the electrical panel. I find her outside, of course, watering her perfectly manicured, drought-resistant, the irony isn't lost on me, petunias, looking as cool and unbothered as if it were a pleasant 70-degree spring day. Her sun hat is immaculate, her gardening gloves pristine. My hands are already balled into fists. "Brenda!" I call out, trying to keep my voice even, but it's got an edge I can't quite hide. She turns, slow and deliberate, like a queen surveying a particularly annoying peasant. That condescending little smile is already playing on her lips. She knows. She knows why I'm here. "Mark, isn't it?" she says, her voice like nails on a chalkboard, if nails could also sound smug. Lovely day, if a bit warm. A bit warm? I can feel a vein throbbing in my temple. Brenda, you unplugged the AC in the cooling center, the town-designated cooling center. Are you actually insane? It's 105 degrees out here, and it's not much better in there thanks to you. She sets down her tiny, decorative watering can with an air of put-upon patience. Yes, Mark, I did. As HOA president, it's my duty to enforce the bylaws. It's a clear violation of HOA Bylaw 7, Section C, Subsection 4. Unauthorized utility expenditure on common property without prior written board approval. She taps a perfectly manicured finger against her chin. And frankly, the main filter looked positively ancient. A potential fire hazard. We can't have that, can we? A fire hazard? I sputter. People are going to get sick in there. Mrs. Rodriguez can barely breathe. She has asthma, Brenda. Did that factor into your bylaw enforcement? Brenda's smile tightens. Then perhaps Mrs. Rodriguez should ensure her personal domicile is adequately cooled and her personal health conditions are managed. The HOA is not responsible for individual health choices or, for that matter, the town's failure to submit the proper utility usage request forms. Forms which, I might add, should have been submitted at least 30 days in advance, with triplicate copies for the board's review. She actually says triplicate copies. I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's a cooling center. I'm definitely louder now, my voice cracking with disbelief. Opened by the town because we're in the middle of a record-breaking heat wave for people who don't have adequate AC or can't afford to run it. And the town, she says, drawing herself up to her full 5'0" height, did not follow protocol. Rules are rules, Mark. They exist for a reason. To maintain order. To ensure fairness. She punctuates this with a little nod, as if she's just imparted some great wisdom. Then she turns back to her damn petunias. I stand there for a second, just vibrating with rage. The sheer unadulterated callousness of it, the smug dismissal. It's one thing to be a stickler for rules, it's another to actively endanger people for the sake of a power trip. I storm back to my truck, yanking the door open, the hot vinyl seat burning through my jeans. I slam the door shut, the sound echoing in the oppressive heat. Okay, maybe yelling wasn't the most productive start, I admit it. My temper, it sometimes gets ahead of me. But you have to understand, this woman, she lives for this. The power trips. Last year it was the unauthorized bird feeder incident with poor Mr. Henderson, who just wanted to see some cardinals. He got a strongly worded letter and a threat of a fine. The year before, it was the great, improperly sorted recycling bins debacle of 23, where Brenda personally went through everyone's blue bins with a clipboard and a frown. She actually issued warnings. Warnings for putting a pizza box in with the newspapers. But this? Unplugging life-sustaining air conditioning during a killer heat wave? This was next level. This was moving from petty tyrant to, I don't know, some kind of suburban supervillain. And the smirk on her face when she said, "Rules are rules," that's when the idea hit me. It wasn't fully formed at first, just a tiny, beautiful spark of glorious, oversized, and probably very expensive rebellion. If she wanted to play by the rules of unauthorized utility expenditure on common property, fine. I'd find a utility she couldn't touch with a 10-foot HOA bylaw manual. My fingers are already flying across my phone screen, scrolling through contacts. My event logistics company, it's not huge, but we handle some decent-sized outdoor gigs. Festivals, corporate retreats, that kind of thing. And for those, you often need, well, you need climate control. My thumb hovers over a name, Sully. Perfect. I take a deep breath, trying to calm the adrenaline still pumping through me. This is crazy. This is probably overkill. This could get me in a whole heap of trouble with the HOA, maybe even the town. A sane person would call the town manager, maybe the fire department about the fire hazard AC unit, but looking back at that clubhouse, imagining Mrs. Rodriguez struggling for air, the image of Brenda's smug face superimposed over it all. Sane went out the window about 10 minutes ago. No, this situation calls for something a little more dramatic. "Sully, my man," I say, trying to sound casual as he picks up on the third ring, the familiar sound of heavy machinery whining in the background of his shop. "How are you fixed for, large-scale mobile climate control?" Sully laughs, a gravelly, booming sound. "Mark, been a while, you old troublemaker. What'd you break now? And define large scale. You talking a big tent wedding for 100 sweaty relatives? Or you trying to cool down a small stadium for a rock concert in July? I grin. This is why I love Sully. He gets it. Think defiant humanitarian mission against an HOA dictator with a god complex. Got a clubhouse full of old folks and kids, and Attila the Hun in a sensible skirt just unplugged their only AC unit. In this heat, Sully, it's brutal. There's a pause. Then Sully lets out a low whistle. An HOA Karen, huh? The worst kind. Cut off the AC? That's just evil. Say no more, Mark. I got just the thing for you. I call her Big Bertha. Big Bertha, I echo, intrigued. Yeah, Sully says, and I can hear the pride in his voice. She's a 40-foot reefer trailer, dual zone, got her own beefy diesel Jenny tucked underneath. She ain't the prettiest girl at the dance. Looks like she's seen a few too many cross-country trips. But I tell you, she'll turn that clubhouse into the damn Arctic Circle if you want. We use her for emergency food storage, sometimes for big outdoor concerts to keep the fancy equipment from melting. My heart does a little leap. A 40-foot reefer trailer. It's so much more than I'd hoped for. It's magnificent. Dual zone, you say? With her own generator? Yep, completely self-contained. Parker, fire her up, and she's good to go. Got outlets on her, too, if you need to run some extra fans or something inside. This is it. This is the nuclear option. Sully, you're a lifesaver. How soon can you get her here? Our little community is on Elm Street, just off Main. Elm Street, huh? Know it? For you, Mark? And for the sheer joy of sticking it to an HOA Karen like that? I can have a guy, Chet. He's my best driver, rolling within the hour. Should be there in, say, 2 hours, tops, depending on traffic. Gonna cost you, though. Diesel ain't cheap these days, and Bertha, she's a thirsty girl. Sully, my friend, I say, a wide grin spreading across my face, the kind that probably makes me look a little unhinged. Some things are priceless. Send her, and send an invoice. This one's on me. My mind is already racing, picturing Brenda's face. Oh, this is going to be good. And Sully? Yeah, Mark? Tell Chet to lay on the horn when he gets to Elm Street. Just a little tap, for ambiance. Sully's booming laugh echoes down the line. You got it, buddy. Consider it done. This is gonna be epic. Epic. Yeah, that's one word for it. I hang up, a strange mixture of elation and, oh crap, what am I actually doing, swirling in my gut. I glance back at the clubhouse. Mrs. Rodriguez is being helped to a chair near the open door, trying to catch a non-existent breeze. The elation wins. This isn't just about getting even with Brenda anymore. This is about doing what's right, in the most over-the-top, gloriously impractical way possible. I drive back towards the clubhouse, but park a little way down the street. I need to stage this. I grab a couple of cases of bottled water from my trunk, the original reason I was heading to the clubhouse, and walk over. Neighbor Dave, a retired firefighter who's usually pretty laid back, is there, looking grim. He's got a damp cloth on Old Man Hemlock's forehead. Heard what Brenda did, Dave says, his voice tight with anger. That's just beyond the pale. Anything we can do? I called the town, but they said the manager's in a meeting. Just keep these folks hydrated, Dave, I say, handing him the water. I have an idea. It's a bit out there. I'm trying to sound nonchalant, but my heart is thumping like a drum solo. Dave looks at me, a flicker of hope in his eyes. At this point, Mark, out there sounds pretty good. What have you got cooking? I just grin. Let's just say reinforcements are on the way, and they're bringing their own weather. While Dave and a couple of other kind souls distribute the water, I'm on my phone again, pulling up a satellite map of the street. Okay, logistics. The clubhouse is set back a bit from the road, with a small, mostly decorative lawn in front. There's public street parking directly in front of that lawn. A 40-foot trailer. Yeah, it'll fit. Just barely. It'll block Brenda's prize-winning rose bushes from the sun, too. Bonus. Sully said Bertha has outlets. I've got a couple of high-powered industrial-grade portable AC units in my event company's storage unit, the kind we use for VIP tents. They're beasts. And I've got hundreds of feet of heavy-duty outdoor extension cords. This could actually work. It's insane. It's beautiful. I feel like a general planning an overly complicated, slightly ridiculous, but morally imperative battle. The main objective? Operation Arctic Blast. The minutes tick by like hours. Every rumble of a truck in the distance makes me jump. I'm pacing, trying to look casual, but inside I'm a bundle of nerves and gleeful anticipation. Brenda's curtains twitch across the street. She's watching. Good. Let her watch. Then I hear it. A deep, guttural rumble, followed by the distinct, unmistakable blast of an air horn. Not just a tap, a full-throated, "Here I am, world!" kind of blast. "Sully, you magnificent bastard!" Heads turn, dogs start barking. And then, around the corner of Elm and Main, it appears. A massive, slightly battered but undeniably imposing Peterbilt semi-truck, gleaming chrome in the harsh sunlight, hauling what can only be described as a land-based whale. Big Bertha. She's white, a little scuffed, with various logistics company logos faded on her sides, but she is, in a word, majestic. Chet, a burly guy with a trucker cap pulled low and a grin wider than Texas, expertly maneuvers the behemoth down our quiet suburban street. He gives another cheerful blast of the horn as he approaches the clubhouse. I can see Brenda's face appear in her window, her jaw practically unhinged. This is better than I dreamed. Chet swings the rig wide, and then, with a skill that's almost balletic for a vehicle this size, he backs Big Bertha into the spot I'd mentally picked out. It's perfect. The rear of the trailer is just a few feet from the clubhouse lawn. The side of it completely eclipses Brenda's prize roses. Poetic justice. Chet hops down from the cab, wiping his brow. "Sully said you had a party needed chillin'," he says, his voice a low rumble that matches his truck. He tips his cap. "Name's Chet. Where do you want the cold air blowin', boss?" "Right into that clubhouse, Chet," I say, unable to keep the triumphant grin off my face. "We're gonna make it snow in August." This is it. The point of no return. It felt like parking a spaceship in the middle of Mayberry. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it is making me giddy. I can almost hear Brenda's blood pressure skyrocketing from her living room across the street. Chet and another guy who was riding shotgun, I didn't even see him get out, are already working. They unhitch the tractor, park it neatly down the street, and then get to work on Bertha. There's a clang, a hiss, and then the low, powerful thrum of a serious diesel generator kicking to life. It's not obnoxiously loud, more like the hum of a distant power station, but it's definitely there. A statement. I've already got my crew. Okay, it's just me and Dave, who's looking at this whole operation with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Hauling the portable AC units from my truck. We position them just inside the clubhouse doors, which we've propped wide open. Chet hands me a couple of thick, industrial orange cables. "Plug these bad boys into Bertha. Run them to your units," he says. "She's got plenty of juice." We connect everything up, flip the switches on the portable units, and a blast of frigid air, smelling faintly of diesel and victory, roars into the sweltering clubhouse. Within minutes, you can feel the difference. The oppressive heat starts to recede. A collective sigh of relief goes through the room. Old Man Hemlock actually cracks a smile. And then, as if summoned by the sudden drop in temperature and the rise of hope, Brenda appears. She marches across her lawn, down her driveway, and onto the street like a one-woman army, her face a mask of thunderous rage. She looks like she's swallowed a wasp, and the wasp is currently staging a very angry protest. "Mark!" her voice screeches, cutting through the generator's hum. "What is the meaning of this monstrosity?" She gestures wildly at Big Bertha, her perfectly applied lipstick somehow making her look even more furious. I turn slowly, a beatific smile plastered on my face. "Brenda, good afternoon again. So glad you could join us." "This," I say, patting Big Bertha's cool metal side like she's a faithful old hound, "is Big Bertha. She's providing a temporary emergency climate control solution. Since the clubhouse's system is, shall we say, offline, due to your diligent rule enforcement regarding unauthorized utility expenditure, and, of course, that terribly dirty, hazardous filter." I try to look concerned about the filter. I don't think I pull it off. Brenda's eyes narrow to slits. "You can't do this! This is a commercial vehicle, on a residential street. It's noisy. It's an eyesore." Her voice is escalating with each accusation. "Actually, Brenda," I say, keeping my tone light and conversational, "it's parked perfectly legally on a public access way. Plenty of room for traffic to pass. And as for noise, I believe Big Bertha's generator is well within acceptable daytime decibel levels as per Town Ordinance 34B. Probably quieter than your leaf blower at 7 a.m. on a Saturday, I'd wager. The one you use to meticulously clear every single leaf from your pristine driveway." A few neighbors who've gathered to watch the show chuckle. "And most importantly, Brenda, she's providing a vital community service, keeping vulnerable people from, suffering from heat stroke. It's a humanitarian effort, really." Brenda is practically vibrating now. Her face is blotchy red. "I'm calling the police. I'm calling the mayor. I'm calling the entire HOA board. I'll have this thing towed. You'll be fined. You'll be ostracized." "You do that, Brenda," I say, still smiling. "Tell them Mark sent you, and tell them to bring an ice scraper. It's getting mighty chilly in that clubhouse." I even throw in a little wink. Chet, who's been watching this whole exchange with unconcealed glee, snorts with laughter and turns away, pretending to check a tire. The deliciousness of righteous defiance is a heady wine, folks. Brenda's sputtering apoplectic rage is like a symphony to my ears. She whirls around and stomps back to her house, phone already pressed to her ear, no doubt dialing 911 with one hand and the personal number of a very unfortunate HOA board member with the other. The show, it seems, is just getting started. Sure enough, not 10 minutes later, a police cruiser pulls up, lights off, thankfully. Officers Miller and Davis get out. Miller's the older one, seen it all, got that weary look that says, "Please don't let this be complicated." Davis is younger, still got that crisp uniform, trying to be by the book, but you can tell he's got a sense of humor. Brenda is practically attached to Officer Miller's elbow, pointing dramatically at Big Bertha, her voice a torrent of accusations and violated bylaws. Officer Miller extricates his arm with the practiced ease of someone who's dealt with many Brendas in his career. He looks at the trailer, a truly massive white rectangle humming contentedly. He looks at me, standing there trying to appear innocent and helpful. He looks at the cool air visibly wafting out of the clubhouse doors, where a few relieved and curious faces are now peeking out. "Afternoon, folks," Officer Miller says, his voice calm and steady. "Ma'am," he addresses Brenda first, "what exactly is the primary issue here, besides, well, it being rather large?" Brenda launches into her tirade again. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. This man, Mark, has illegally parked this refrigerated behemoth and is creating a public nuisance. It's an HOA violation of epic proportions, a city ordinance violation. It's probably a federal crime involving interstate commerce. I wouldn't be surprised." I step forward, hands held up in a placating gesture. "Officer, good afternoon. Mark Collins. And this," I gesture to Bertha, "is a temporary emergency climate control unit. We're simply providing auxiliary cooling for the official town cooling center since the building's primary AC was, decommissioned unexpectedly by Miss HOA president here due to a perceived bylaw infraction and a potentially flammable filter. I add the last part with a straight face. Brenda squawks. It was unauthorized, and that filter was a definite fire hazard. I have pictures. Officer Davis, the younger one, turns to me. Is this your trailer, sir? It's a rental, officer, I reply smoothly. From a licensed local business, Sully's Cool Solutions. Parked legally on the public access way, not blocking any driveways or fire hydrants. It's just providing dedicated power to some heavy-duty portable AC units inside the cooling center. You know, for the elderly and the kids. Standard procedure in a heat emergency when fixed utilities fail. I try to make it sound like this happens every day. Officer Miller, bless his seen-it-all soul, walks slowly towards the clubhouse door. He puts his hand out, feels the cool air. A small, almost imperceptible smile touches his lips. Feels pretty good in there, I bet. He turns back to Brenda. Ma'am, you said the town council themselves opened this building as an official cooling center for the public. Well, yes, they did, Brenda concedes, her voice dripping with resentment. But they failed to submit Form 32-C for excessive utility use, nor did they provide an environmental impact statement for continuous operation. Officer Miller sighs, a deep, weary sound that speaks volumes. He subtly rubs his temples. Sir, he says to me, as long as this vehicle is legally parked, not violating any current noise ordinances during daytime hours, and it's actively helping people in this declared heat emergency. It's a bit unusual, I'll grant you, but I'm not seeing an immediate police matter here. He then looks at Brenda. Ma'am, this appears to be more of an HOA internal dispute, or perhaps something you need to take up with the town council regarding their paperwork protocols. We don't generally get involved in bylaw enforcement unless there's a breach of the peace or a criminal statute violated. Brenda is actually sputtering now. Words fail her for a glorious moment. Then she rallies. But, it's ugly. It's ruining the aesthetic of our neighborhood. My property values are plummeting as we speak. Officer Davis, who's been struggling to maintain a professional demeanor, coughs to cover a smile. Ma'am, ugly isn't currently a criminal offense in this precinct, nor is potential future property value decline. The sheer, beautiful, deadpan delivery of that line. I want to hug Officer Davis. Brenda just stares, her mouth opening and closing like a beached carp. Victory. Sweet, air-conditioned victory. The cops explain, patiently, that they can't tow a legally parked vehicle that isn't causing a hazard, especially one involved in what could be argued as a public welfare situation. They suggest, again, that she take it up with the HOA board or the town. They get back in their cruiser, give a little nod, and drive off, leaving Brenda standing there, impotent and fuming, in the shadow of Big Bertha. Sully, true to his word, shows up a little while later, ostensibly to check on his equipment. He's got a huge grin on his face. Heard you had a little visit from the boys in blue, he says, clapping me on the back so hard I nearly stumble. My driver, Chet, called me. Said you handled that HOA Karen like a seasoned pro. Never seen one deflate so fast. That was beautiful, Mark. Truly beautiful. Couldn't have done it without Big Bertha, Sully, I say, laughing. She's a lifesaver and a looker in her own special way. The rest of the afternoon is almost peaceful in a surreal kind of way. Inside the clubhouse, it's like an Arctic oasis. People are comfortable. They're chatting, kids are playing quietly. Old Man Hemlock is actually reading a newspaper with a small smile. Mrs. Rodriguez gives me a watery, grateful look and pats my arm when I check on her. You're a good boy, Mark, she whispers. That alone makes the whole crazy endeavor worth it. Outside, A few curious and supportive neighbors have brought out lawn chairs. Not to sit in the cool air, it's still 100 degrees in the shade, but to watch the ongoing spectacle of Brenda across the street, who is now pacing her porch, phone clamped to her ear, gesticulating wildly. I think she's trying to rally the HOA board for an emergency session, from the frustrated slams of her screen door. Every so often, I'm guessing it's not going well. Even HOA board members, it seems, have a limit when it comes to tilting at diesel-powered windmills in a heat wave. I even see a couple of the actual HOA board members drive by slowly in their cars. They look at Big Bertha. They look at the clubhouse. They look at Brenda's house. Then they shake their heads and drive off. No backup for Brenda today. It seems her particular brand of tyranny has finally overstepped. Later that evening, as the sun finally begins to dip and the oppressive heat eases just a fraction, I'm sitting on my own porch with a cold beer, watching Big Bertha hum contentedly down the street. The lights are on in the clubhouse, a welcoming glow. It hits me then, the full absurdity and also the profound rightness of it all. For a moment there, when the cops pulled up, I won't lie, I had a flash of, okay, Mark, you've finally gone too far. This is where they slap the cuffs on you for disturbing the peace with a Class A commercial vehicle. But then Officer Miller, with his tired eyes and deep understanding of human folly, just got it. Sometimes common sense and a desperate need for air conditioning has to win. Brenda is stewing in her own juices, which, given her temperament, is probably hotter than the actual temperature outside. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. But then I remember Mrs. Rodriguez gasping for air, and the feeling passes. Big Bertha stayed for 3 glorious, chilly days. 3 days of blissful, refrigerated air in the clubhouse. 3 days of Brenda looking like her head might actually explode from sheer, unadulterated fury. The town manager did call me, his voice a mixture of bewildered amusement and grudging respect. He said they would expedite the proper paperwork. I could hear the air quotes in his voice, and get the clubhouse AC properly fixed, with a new filter and everything, ASAP. He also mentioned they might need to review their cooling center activation protocols, and maybe invest in a backup generator for common buildings. Small victories. Brenda, true to form, sent out a furious multi-page HOA newsletter typed in all caps, decrying unauthorized heavy machinery, blatant disregard for community aesthetics, and what she termed atmospheric terrorism. It was a masterpiece of bureaucratic outrage. Most people used it to fan themselves before tossing it in the recycling properly sorted, of course. No one really cared about her pronouncements anymore. They were too busy enjoying the impromptu, well-chilled community gatherings in the clubhouse, or simply knowing there was a safe place to go. On day 4, a bona fide HVAC repair truck showed up. Not just some guy with a wrench, but a serious crew. They installed a brand new heavy-duty AC unit for the clubhouse, complete with a washable, high-efficiency filter and, I kid you not, a surge protector the size of a briefcase. The town wasn't messing around this time. Sully came to pick up Big Bertha later that afternoon. Chet gave another cheerful toot of the air horn as they rumbled away, leaving a strange Bertha-shaped void on Elm Street. Sully handed me the bill. It was hefty, but then he winked and showed me the services to humanity and exceptional comedic value discount he'd applied. Still not cheap, but manageable, and worth every single penny. Weeks later, the Big Chill of 25, as neighbor Dave officially christened it, is still the talk of the neighborhood. At the end of summer community BBQ, held in the now reliably frigid clubhouse, people keep coming up to me, shaking my head, calling me a legend. I just laugh it off. I'm no hero. I just have a low tolerance for bureaucratic bullies and access to some seriously oversized cooling equipment. Brenda still avoids me. Or, if eye contact is unavoidable, She gives me a glare that could freeze hell over, which, ironically, is what I technically did to the clubhouse. I heard through the grapevine, mostly Dave, who has his ear to the ground, that she's trying to get a new bylaw passed about temporary atmospheric alteration devices exceeding 20,000 BTUs and non-decorative vehicular installations. Good luck with that, lady. I don't think I made a friend in her, but I definitely made a point. The HOA board meetings are apparently a lot more focused on actual community needs now, and a little less on the color of one's mailbox. So, yeah, it cost a bit. It caused a ruckus. I'm probably on some kind of HOA watch list for life. But you know what? Every time I see Mrs. Rodriguez sitting comfortably in the shade, every time I walk past that clubhouse and feel the faint hum of that new, powerful AC unit, I grin. Sometimes you gotta bend the rules. Sometimes you gotta make some noise. And sometimes, just sometimes, the best way to deal with a petty tyrant who's all about control isn't to fight them on their terms, but to change the entire game with a 40-foot diesel-powered trailer full of ice-cold, air-conditioned justice. Maybe I should send Brenda a thank you note for inspiring such creative problem-solving. Nah, pretty sure she wouldn't appreciate the gesture, or the glitter I'd inevitably put in the envelope.